Hi there. Thank you so much for joining us on this Tuesday. It is the 7th of June. I'm Emily Vukovic. Here's a look at our developing stories. Colin making landfall. Will there be a Canadian impact? And cool temperatures? They won't last. We're going to start things off by taking a look at your watches and warnings. We do have a heat warning throughout parts of southern Alberta. This includes Calgary. We are seeing temperatures around 32 degrees. It's hot, it's sticky. So this was in place yesterday, continues to be in place today. And with that kind of heat, that's just going to add fuel to the fire when it comes to these thunderstorms. So the thunderstorm risk we had yesterday was a little bit further north, but now it's sinking along the foothills. And the biggest risk with these cells is going to be gusty winds, some small hail. That heat, the humidity continues to help fire things up, but things are going to switch. We've had this big ridge in the west. Now we're starting to see a trough developing through southern BC. I mean, we've had record-breaking heat through southern BC, but that's all going to change by the end of the week. So this big ridge, it starts to move its way east. So parts of southern Saskatchewan and in through southern Manitoba, we've got the risk of seeing really, really warm temperatures and severe thunderstorms by the end of the week. It continues to track its way in through parts of Ontario to the northwest, to the northeast, and then in through the lower Great Lakes. Now for today, because of this upper trough, we still have the risk to see a few isolated thunderstorms stretching anywhere kind of from Belleville up through Ottawa, in through Montreal, parts of New Brunswick. We're going to see that risk again, and quite a bit of rain. We've got two areas of low pressure, and then we're going to have the moisture from Colin coming through, which made landfall this morning. And we're going to be seeing quite a bit of rain Wednesday into Thursday. Now that's when these warnings are in place, except for the rainfall warning. That's today and tomorrow. That's that upper low. And then once that moisture from Colin picks up, that's where we get into that tropical cyclone warning and the the wind warning. This is going to be through parts of Newfoundland. All right, and with that, we're talking about Colin, we're talking about hurricanes. Here's Nathan Coleman with a great story on that.
Sure.
Thank you so much. We are talking about Colin. We're talking about the impact it could potentially have on Canada by the end of the week, more so midweek. So here's the track right now, the trajectory. The pressure at about 1,000 millibars. We've got winds that are gusting at about 80 kilometers an hour, and it's moving northeast at 53 kilometers an hour, so fairly rapidly. The worst case scenario is that it's got it kind of swinging by the Avalon Peninsula, so it's not exactly going to be making landfall, but still bringing in some high surf. It's going to be more so of a marine interest. It's going to be bringing in a lot of high surf, strong winds, and heavy rain. Okay, so the Atlantic storm names, this is what Nathan was mentioning. We're already at Colin. That's kind of record-breaking, really, to be at sea this early in the season. Okay, coming up, of course, we'll take a look at your local forecast details and more stories to come. Your Weather Watch continues. I'm Emily Vukovic, and joining me, our web expert, Andrea Bagley. We've been talking about the trending stories. There's so much really interesting information on our website, including pictures like this.
Isn't that incredible? Wow. So you'll see a theme coming with today's hit and thunderstorms of basically a thunderstorm capturing the lightning as it's happening. Just incredible.
That third one, that one that's right behind you, looks like daylight.
It's amazing.
They got the lightning just right there.
I don't know how they did it.
I know, it's amazing. Now, this poll question, what would you rather do without this summer?
I think I can guess yours, Emily.
I would do without thunderstorms. I like the heat.
I know. I didn't think you were gonna say the heat. You know what? And actually, a lot of people are with you.
Yeah.
I'm surprised. You know what? I thought it would be the heat, because thunderstorms, you know, sometimes people get nervous about them. They can be severe in nature.
The trending stories that we have on our website right now, the first one, and take a look at this picture, by the way. This was also taken in Toronto yesterday of an intense storm coming through. So trending now, we've got Ontario storm. So hashtag ON storm. We've got the 10 best tweets, some amazing pictures, including the one behind us. And the second story, destructive hurricanes.
Yes, so you know what, I think with Tropical Storm Colin, which we will talk about also, that, you know, bringing to light a lot of things to people too, and looking back on past hurricanes. This one being Hurricane Sandy, what you'll see of an image coming up, before and after photos, just incredible.
Wow.
And so we put together 5 destructive hurricanes over the history, and some of the most destructive photos, you know, showing the before and after from these types of storms.
Wow, and it's you know, it's such an emotional piece too, because people
really is.
remember remember. They live through it. They
That's
remember every single one. So make sure you check that out. And then, of course, the first story that's trending, number one, Colin makes landfall. Earlier this morning, Colin made landfall through Florida, bringing in a lot of wind, a lot of rain, intense. Now, did you know, and I didn't know this until yesterday, but it's the first time in history that we've actually gotten down to a C.
Yes.
In the names.
Yes, this early
in the season.
It's amazing. You know, Alex kicked off the season, the Atlantic hurricane season, back in January.
Wow.
Which was also a historical piece as well. And then we had Bonnie, which, you know, just was persistent Bonnie, was a tropical storm briefly, then back down to a depression.
My
back
Bonnie
to a
lies
tropical
over
storm.
the ocean.
That's right. You know, and now we have Colin, which we're tracking the impact, potential impact in Canada as well as it moves up the coast.
Yeah, we'll be talking about all of that today, but make sure you head to our website, theweathernetwork.com, for all these stories. Ontario, look at that storm brewing. Wow, yesterday, it's pretty significant. Thanks for joining us. I'm Emily Vukovic. It's Tuesday. It is the 7th of June. We've been talking about the rain throughout parts of Ontario and into Atlantic Canada. And the reason we do have all of this rain moving through and just kind of that consistency is that we've got this upper trough and it really doesn't want to go anywhere. It's giving us kind of rounds of rain after rain through the northern parts of Quebec, and that trough extending from it, that's bringing us our thunderstorm risk. Things are going to change. We do have a trough moving into the area. Things are going to start to cool down throughout parts of southern Ontario and even into Atlantic Canada. It's going to stay wet. It's going to be windy, and the storm surge, it's going to be there when we get to Tropical Storm Colin making kind of an impact in Canadian waters, and we'll talk more about that coming up. Now to the west, we do have an isolated thunderstorm risk today. The main threat's going to be gusty winds as well as small hail, but it's really going to be similar again to yesterday where we did see some pretty decent storms. All right, take a look. Saskatchewan, isn't that pretty? Oh, so pretty. Gorgeous. We'd love to see all your pictures and videos. You can just upload them to our website, theweathernetwork.com. Okay, severe weather potential. The Cape, you can see the heat and the humidity is really going to add some fuel to the fire through parts of Saskatchewan and in through parts of southern Manitoba. It's going to be potentially pretty stormy by the end of the week. And then that upper low, well, that's going to track its way east, giving us that trough, and that's what's going to cool us down in the south. More now in your Long Ranger. All right, we have got a look at your long-range forecast to the west. Temperatures are going to cool down through southern British Columbia. We've got this first low that's going to be coming on shore. We've got the risk of isolated thunderstorms throughout the prairie provinces with that second low, and that's just going to move its way east by the end of the week, and that's going to bring in a little bit of active weather through the lower Great Lakes by Saturday, and then eventually in through Atlantic Canada. Now, through eastern Canada, we are going to be seeing cooler temperatures through the lower Great Lakes come tomorrow, and then we'll start to see that heat because the ridge is going to continue to track its way east, which is good news. And then in through Atlantic Canada, by the time we're finished with Colin, we're going to start to see high pressure build into the area. So as we get closer to the weekend, it looks pretty good. Looking at your 7-day for Montreal, there are those cool temperatures. Look at Thursday, only 13 degrees. That doesn't look very summer-like, does it? But by the weekend, we do start to rebound. The heat is on through southern Saskatchewan and southern Manitoba. You saw those Cape values, those deep reds and oranges. There's that risk for seeing some isolated severe thunderstorms. And then in through Calgary for 7 days, we're looking at the heat for at least one more day. And as we get closer to the weekend, things will start to cool off slightly. Hi there, I'm Emily Vukovic. Your Weather Watch continues on this Tuesday. It is the 7th of June, and our developing stories, Colin making landfall. Will it have an impact for Canadians? And cool temperatures, they just won't last. Looking at some of the weather alerts right across the country, the first one being a heat warning. This is in through Calgary. This is in through Red Deer. This is in through Lethbridge and Medicine Hat. Take a look at this we've been dealing with, but that just gives you a little bit of perspective on how easily stuff like that can happen. Okay, we've got the thunderstorm risk today through Fort McMurray, through Edmonton, down through Red Deer and Calgary. Just on the mountains, we are going to be seeing that low develop. And see, we do have a lot of heat that's continuing to move in through parts of southern Alberta and southern Saskatchewan. Okay, it's time now to take a look at our top videos. Here's Ross Giartana. Thanks, Ross. Here are the details right now. We've got the risk of a few isolated non-severe thunderstorms eastern Ontario and through Quebec and in through parts of New Brunswick. Now, the situation that we have here now, and it's interesting that he was talking about Colin, because we do have this upper low that's bringing in a lot of rainfall through parts of Newfoundland and in through parts of Quebec. Now, by Thursday, the energy from Colin is going to track its way up the coast. We're looking Wednesday into Thursday, where we are going to be seeing the tropical cyclone information pop up in our area, and of course, we've got some gusty conditions. Make sure you stay with us. Your local forecast details are coming up. Hi there, your Weather Watch continues. I'm Emily Vukovic. It's Tuesday. It is the 7th of June and the heat is on. It has been so hot through parts of southern BC and southern Alberta. Record breaking, in fact. Look at Banff, 28.8 yesterday. Trail got up to 37.2. Jasper, 30.6. I mean, records are being shattered right through the region. And with that, it's been hot in Alberta. We've got a heat warning in place that stretches through Red Deer, Calgary, Lethbridge, over towards Medicine Hat, temperatures exceeding 32 degrees. Now, it's been stormy in parts of Alberta. We have seen quite a bit of active weather, and we can thank an area of low pressure and that heat and humidity. Yesterday, we saw some pretty decent storms through Edmonton. Everybody's been showing us pictures and video. Keeping an eye on the prairies with this area of low pressure throughout the day today. And then tomorrow, we've got another low that kind of takes place of the first one, and this could be bringing us in some stormy weather as well. Take a look at this. And then left us with this. Take a look. Wow. Intense flooding. This is supposed to be a rainbow in Hamilton. This is not a rainbow in Hamilton. I think this is Florida. Was that Florida? Wow. Okay, so we're going to show you Hamilton in a few minutes. But first, we will get to the Ontario story and see what's going on there. We've got a fairly decent day today, but we've got a cooling trend on the way. We've got temperatures that are going to be dropping because of this big trough in the jet stream, that counterclockwise rotation over the low, bringing in some northerly wind. Unsettled conditions for Wednesday, could see a few isolated showers, and with that, we do have the risk to see a few isolated, non-severe thunderstorms moving in through parts of Ontario, Quebec, and in through the Maritimes. Okay, now we're going to head to Florida, and you can see, oh, so much flooding. And with that, here a look at some flood safety tips. Coming up, we'll take a look at your local forecast. Jacqueline Whittle joins Nicole Karkic. They talk about MCS. What does it mean? So make sure you stay with us. Don't go anywhere. Hi there. Thank you for joining us. I'm Emily Vukovic. It's Tuesday. It is the 7th of June, and our developing stories. Colin makes landfall. Will there be a Canadian impact? And cool temperatures? They won't last. This, however, is no cool temperatures. So we do have a heat warning in place for southern Alberta, stretching through Red Deer, Calgary, over towards Lethbridge and Medicine Hat. A heat warning means temperatures have been about 32 degrees. It has been oppressively hot. And with that, we do have the risk for a few isolated thunderstorms. Now, mostly non-severe in nature throughout northern Alberta, stretching all the way down to the south and through Calgary, Lethbridge, Medicine Hat. Fort McMurray also in this risk. And the biggest threat's going to be gusty winds, maybe some small-sized hail, very similar to what they saw yesterday, or what you saw yesterday in Edmonton. We saw some great pictures coming in. The trough, it's going to be moving. We're starting to see it move in through the west coast, so the record-breaking heat that you've been experiencing for the last 2 days in Kamloops and Osoyoos. Osoyoos was the hot spot yesterday. Lytton, BC almost got up to 40 on Sunday. Well, those days are going to be over. We're seeing this trough sinking south. We are going to see this ridge move its way east, so southern Saskatchewan, southern Manitoba. It's going to be your turn for the heat and the humidity. Now, we're still seeing it fairly warm throughout the lower Great Lakes, but tomorrow is actually going to cool down significantly, and I'll talk temperatures in just a few moments. But first, thunderstorm risk with this upper low through Ottawa, through Montreal, moving in through parts of New Brunswick. We've got a lot of moisture on the way from a couple of things. We've got one upper low that's bringing in a lot of rainfall through parts of Quebec and in through Newfoundland, in through the Maritime provinces. And then we're going to start to see that energy from Colin moving through as well. And that's what's going to be bringing us the tropical cyclone information statement. That's going to be in effect for Wednesday and into Thursday. And this is more of a marine advisory. We're looking at kind of high surf, strong winds. It doesn't look like it's going to be making direct impact. It'll potentially just brush right through the Avalon. Right, for an update on the Atlantic hurricane season, here's Nate Coleman. Thank you so much, Nate. Okay, so Tropical Storm Colin made landfall this morning at about 2 a.m. local time and through Jacksonville, Florida. And the winds moving at about 80 kilometers an hour, and it's moving northeast at 53 kilometers an hour. So it is going to be brushing by the Avalon come Wednesday into Thursday. Again, bringing in winds, and it's just going to kind of merge in with that upper low. And that's why we're going to see some heavy rain in some cases. So not too much of an impact, but it is there. Okay, here's what Nate was talking about, the Atlantic storm names. Already we've seen Alex, Bonnie, and Colin. This is record-breaking to see 3 named storms this early in the season. Coming up, of course, we'll take a look at your local forecast details and force of nature also coming up. And make sure you stay with us. We'll talk flood safety tips in 10 minutes. It's Tuesday. It is the 7th of June. I'm Emily Vukovic. Thank you for joining us here on the Weather Network. The heat is going to continue in the west. We have seen record-breaking heat for the last couple of days. Take a look at Kelowna. Got up to 35.8 yesterday. Osoyoos was the hot spot across the country, and again, upper 30s. We do have a heat warning in place for southern Alberta. We're looking at Red Deer, Calgary, Lethbridge, Medicine Hat. Everybody feeling the heat. A little bit over 32 degrees. That's when a heat alert comes into effect. Low pressure into that warm sector. That's where we're feeling that warmth, that warm air coming in from the south. This low is responsible for bringing in some isolated thunderstorms throughout the day yesterday, and it's going to continue to bring in that risk of isolated thunderstorms today, and then a new low forms, and this is going to be bringing us the risk of isolated thunderstorms throughout the day tomorrow, and it's going to be tracking its way east. Heavy downpours, and you know what? We needed it. We needed the rain. It's so dry. This must-see video out of Hamilton after the storm. Beautiful double rainbow. Everybody was out taking pictures of this. Now, the upper low that was responsible for bringing us the risk of isolated thunderstorms yesterday is going to do the same today, but not so much for the lower Great Lakes, but for eastern Ontario, up through the Ottawa Valley and in through the mouth of the St. Lawrence. It's going to bring in quite a bit of moisture through parts of northern Quebec and in through the maritime provinces. And then it's going to be bringing in, it's going to join forces with what's left of Colin, and that's going to bring us some more rain and high winds. We've got a cooling trend throughout the day tomorrow. Temperatures throughout the lower Great Lakes, and we can thank those northerly winds, only going to be in the mid to high teens. I think we're forecasting 16 degrees for Toronto. Ugh. All right, we move now to Florida, and this is what it looked like immediately. We've got a great 360 video experience from our storm chasers and MCS. What does it mean? All those details are coming up next. Well, you'll certainly be able to get out and grill tonight throughout southern British Columbia. We've got that ridge continuing, and it's going to be a really beautiful evening. Now, this area of low pressure that's going to be tracking its way right across the prairie provinces could bring some storms through southern Alberta and eventually through Saskatchewan and Manitoba. And to the east, a chance of showers, and it looks as though you might want to stay in tomorrow into Atlantic Canada because we do have quite a bit of rain on the way for Nova Scotia and Newfoundland.
My colleague, Emily.
Thanks, Cheryl. Well, we're taking a look at the track of post-tropical cyclone Colin. You can see the lightning, the storms moving over Florida and up the coast through the Carolinas. The trajectory of this, will it impact Canada? We'll talk about that in a moment. But first, St. Augustine, Tampa, looking gray, looking wet, looking windy. Yeah, that's going to continue to be the trend until Colin makes its way up towards Atlantic Canada, which is exactly what it is going to be doing. Wednesday into Thursday is where we're going to see, well, more of the impact. We're looking at winds at about 95 kilometers an hour. It's moving northeast at 57 kilometers an hour. So it is going to be bringing in strong winds as well as quite a bit of rain through parts of Nova Scotia and Newfoundland. But the good news is that the wind, it looks as though it's going to be below warning criteria for both Nova Scotia and Newfoundland. We'll see some periods of heavy rain, but no storm surge, 2 to 3 meter waves, and 4 to 6 meters offshore. All right, with the rest of the forecast details, I'm going to turn things back to you. Our viewers are amazing. You do such a great job of sending us photos and videos. This came in from Cambridge, Ontario. Sherry sent this in. Dark, ominous clouds through southern Ontario yesterday with that line of thunderstorms. Our top 10 tweets, they're on our website. Thunderstorms unleash wicked skies across southern Ontario, and as you can see, Looking very stormy with that time lapse. That's a video. This shot was taken, I think, on the 407, and you can see, it doesn't look good. Heavy rain, dark clouds, windy conditions. Andrew sent in this beautiful shot right through Toronto. Isn't that stunning? Another good shot of Toronto, and you can see dark, ominous clouds, but a little peak of blue. Just a tiny little peak. And wow, Craig sent in this one, dark, ominous clouds. We love to see your stuff, so make sure you send them to us at Weather Network, or you can send me a direct tweet at EmilyTWN, and of course you can check out all the pictures and the video at theweathernetwork.com.
Update.
Thanks, Chris. Okay, we're taking a look at what's now post-tropical Cyclone Colin. Still bringing in quite a bit of rain. You can see the lightning through Florida up towards the Carolinas. We are going to continue to see this track towards Atlantic Canada. The winds are at about 95 kilometers an hour. It's moving northeast at 57 kilometers an hour. So it's going to be making an impact through parts of Newfoundland and Nova Scotia really Wednesday into Thursday. The good news is that it doesn't look as though we're going to see any wind warnings with this or rainfall warnings. The criteria is such where it's going to fall in below warning levels. So the wind below warning criteria, periods of heavy rain for both Newfoundland and Nova Scotia, but it doesn't look as though we're going to see any storm surge with this. The waves are going to be at about 2 to 3 meters onshore and about 4 to 6 meters offshore. All right, with more on the forecast details, I'll turn things back inside to you. Looking at your long-range forecast with Dr. Doug Gillum. Doug, the heat is on in the west, but to the east, it almost looks cold.
No, it sure does not look like June from the Great Lakes to Atlantic Canada. Focus of the heat in the prairies, it's going to be 40 degrees in South Dakota. We're going to have a rather active pattern this week. A bit of a break, though, on Friday for parts of the prairies, but still unsettled for BC and Alberta. And keeping an eye on the threat for strong to severe thunderstorms, parts of southern Manitoba and into northwestern Ontario. As the heat and humidity surges into the lakes, it's going to run into a lot of resistance, and that's going to set up a rather sharp boundary. And that is the recipe for rather active weather with a rather strong jet stream.
You can almost see the boundary. Like if you look at the temperatures, we're looking at 19 through Huntsville and then down towards Windsor, 32 degrees. So there is that sharp contrast.
It is. So you may see your high temperature forecast change in the Toronto Barrie area depending on where that boundary sets up. And then we're going to see this region of rain and thunderstorms tracking along that boundary. So not a total washout, but a period of rain and thunderstorms, even some locally strong to severe storms in parts of southwestern Ontario into Niagara.
And a lot of people get married in this time of year. So, I mean, it's really going to be hit and miss. It's good luck for rain on your wedding day, right?
I guess so.
Okay, well, on Sunday, again, temperatures are cool. Look at that, 18.
Yeah, the heat gets pushed back south of the border, so a lack of heat across the country, and that continues into early next week. Also, some active weather for Atlantic Canada. The storms in southern Ontario on Saturday intensify into a system that brings strong winds and heavy rain to Atlantic Canada for Monday. So we take a look at the temperature pattern next week. We continue to see the below seasonal temperatures in the east and in the west. The heat builds in the middle, and as we head towards Father's Day and the end of June, look how that warmth really takes over the Great Lakes and into the Maritimes.
This is going to be good news for many, I think.